The Fisher-Keller Drive changed everything. For centuries, humans had looked up at the stars and wondered if they were alone. Now they had their answer, and it was more complicated than anyone had imagined. Captain Elaine Brooks stood on the bridge of the UESS Horizon, her eyes fixed on the massive structure floating in the darkness near Alpha Centauri. It was clearly not natural. A gleaming metal ring larger than any space station humans had built, with strange symbols etched into its surface. "Status report," she said, keeping her voice steady despite the tension running through her body. "Lieutenant." Ryan Walsh looked up from his console. "No sign of activity, Captain. But those energy readings are unlike anything in our database." Elaine nodded slowly. After establishing colonies on Mars and Europa, humanity had been eager to push further. The Fisher-Keller Drive made that possible, bending space in ways that scientists had once thought impossible. But no one expected to find evidence of alien technology on their first journey to another star system. "Bring us closer," she ordered. "Maintain defensive posture, but let's see what we're dealing with." As the horizon approached, the ring began to glow. Patterns of light raced along its surface, forming intricate networks that pulsed with increasing intensity. "Captain," Ryan said, his voice tight with alarm, "it's activating. Something's happening." Before Elaine could respond, a beam of light shot from the ring, scanning the ship from bow to stern. The bridge crew froze as displays flickered and systems momentarily faltered. "It's reading us," said Science Officer Alice Miller, her fingers flying across her console. "Some kind of advanced scanning technology." The beam vanished as suddenly as it had appeared. For several long moments, nothing happened. Then, the space within the ring began to shimmer, forming what looked like a pool of liquid starlight. "Message incoming," Ryan announced, surprise evident in his voice. It's in English." The main screen displayed a simple text message. "Greetings, humans of Earth. Your presence has been noted. The Galactic Council welcomes contact with your species. Please prepare to receive our emissary." The bridge fell silent. "Well," Elaine said finally, "I guess we're not alone after all." 48 hours later, a sleek vessel emerged from the ring. Unlike the angular, practical designs of human ships, this craft was graceful and organic, as if grown rather than built. It approached cautiously, maintaining a respectful distance. When the alien requested permission to come aboard, Elaine granted it with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. The diplomatic protocols for first contact had been established years ago, but no one really believed they would be needed so soon. The airlock cycled, and the emissary entered. Standing nearly 7 feet tall, the being resembled a bipedal reptile with iridescent scales and forearms. It wore what appeared to be ceremonial robes, adorned with symbols similar to those on the ring structure. "I am Jarek," it said, its voice surprisingly melodious. "Senior Diplomatic Liaison of the Galactic Council. I bring greetings to humanity." Elaine stepped forward. "Captain Elaine Brooks of the United Earth Spaceship Horizon. We return your greetings and welcome you aboard." Jarek's vertical pupils widened slightly. "Your language adaptation is impressive. The Council has observed your species for some time, but direct contact was deemed premature until you developed independent faster-than-light travel. The Fisher-Keller Drive, while unusual in its approach, qualifies you for initial diplomatic exchange." Over the next few days, Jarek explained that the Galactic Council consisted of 17 spacefaring species who had formed an alliance thousands of years ago. The massive ring was a relay station, one of hundreds scattered throughout the galaxy, to monitor emerging civilizations and facilitate travel between Council worlds. "The Council extends an invitation," Jarek told Elaine on the final day of the visit. "Earth may send a representative to Nexus Prime, our diplomatic hub. There, your species will be formally introduced and begin the process of integration. When the Horizon returned to Earth with news of the contact, governments worldwide scrambled to respond. After weeks of debate, Joseph Martinez was selected as humanity's first ambassador to the stars. A career diplomat with a calm demeanor and sharp mind, Joseph had negotiated peace treaties in some of Earth's most volatile regions. This is the most important diplomatic mission in human history, said the Secretary General during the appointment ceremony. Ambassador Martinez will represent not just a nation, but our entire species. Joseph accepted the responsibility with outward confidence. But privately, he felt the weight of it pressing down on him. How could any one person be expected to speak for all of humanity? His aide, Samantha Williams, sensed his concern. "You won't be alone," she assured him as they prepared for departure. "We've assembled the best team Earth has to offer." The team included experts in various fields: linguists, scientists, security personnel, and cultural specialists. Together, they boarded the newly commissioned diplomatic vessel, Goose Envoy, bound for the relay station where a council ship would escort. Them to Nexus Prime got the journey through the relay was unlike anything the humans had experienced. The ship passed through what Jarek called a fold in space, emerging near a star system hundreds of light years from Earth. There, an enormous council vessel waited to guide them the rest of the way. Nexus Prime defied expectations. Rather than a planet, it was an artificial world, a massive space station orbiting a binary star system. At its center stood the Council Spire, a towering structure that housed the chambers where representatives from all member species gathered to discuss galactic affairs. As the human delegations settled into their assigned quarters, Joseph prepared for the formal introduction ceremony. The Council had provided information about protocols and expected behaviors, but much remained unknown. Samantha found him reviewing the materials late into the station's artificial night cycle. "You should rest," she said. "Tomorrow will be demanding enough without exhaustion." Joseph nodded, but didn't look up. Something feels off about all this. The Council materials describe the process for new species, but there's an emphasis on observing species status that concerns me. "I noticed that too," Samantha replied, sitting across from him. "From what I can gather, new species aren't granted full membership rights immediately. We'd be observers first, with limited participation. For how long? The materials don't specify." Joseph frowned. "Get the team working on this. I want to know what we're really walking into tomorrow." The next morning, as they prepared to enter the council chambers, Samantha pulled Joseph aside. "I've been reviewing the public records available to visitors. There are species here that have been observers for centuries. The senior members, especially the Valorians, Nethari, and Kolari, seem to maintain permanent advantages in council decisions." Before Joseph could respond, their escort arrived, a Nethari diplomat whose translucent skin revealed the shadowy outlines of multiple organs beneath. The council chamber was vast, with representatives from all 17 species seated according to their status. The human delegation was directed to a small section reserved for visiting observers. As Joseph delivered humanity's formal greeting, he noticed the subtle dynamics between the council members. The elder species exchanged glances when he spoke, of mutual cooperation and equal exchange of knowledge. Something in their reactions suggested they had heard such optimism before and were merely waiting for it to fade. Later, as the delegation returned to their quarters, Samantha shared her most troubling discovery. "According to records I accessed through a public terminal, Earth wasn't randomly discovered when we activated the Fisher-Keller drive. There are references to observation posts in our solar system dating back centuries." Joseph stopped walking. "Are you saying they've been watching us all along?" "Yes," Samantha said quietly. "And something about humanity has the Council deeply concerned." 6 months passed on Nexus Prime, and Joseph Martinez learned much about how the Galactic Council truly operated. The grand speeches about unity and cooperation that welcomed the human delegation had given way to the reality of council politics. Joseph spent his days attending endless committee meetings where even the smallest decisions required approval from multiple levels of bureaucracy. "Another delay on our technology exchange request," Joseph said, tossing a data pad onto his desk. The human embassy on Nexus Prime was comfortable, but small compared to those of established species. "That's the third time this month." Samantha Williams nodded, her expression troubled. "They claim security protocols require additional review, but I've checked the regulations. Our request meets all stated requirements." Joseph stared out the viewport at the massive council spire that dominated the station's central hub. The elegant structure housed thousands of representatives and administrators from across the galaxy. Yet somehow the humans always found themselves on the outside looking in. The junior members seemed just as frustrated, Joseph observed. "I spoke with the Tellarite ambassador yesterday. They've been an observing species for nearly 70 years. And the Morrigan for over a century," Samantha added. "It's a pattern. The senior council races, particularly the Valorians, Nefari, and Kolari, control nearly every significant vote through alliances and proxy species." Joseph turned from the window. "We need to understand what's really happening here. The council is hiding something about their interest in humanity, and I want to know what it is." Lieutenant Daniel Powell entered the office without knocking, his face grim. The head of security for the human delegation was not a man given to unnecessary concern, which made his expression all the more troubling. "Sir, we've received information about a closed council session tomorrow," Daniel said. "Earth representatives weren't invited, but according to my source, humanity is the main topic of discussion." Joseph frowned. "Can your source tell us more?" "No, but I might have another way." Daniel hesitated. "We brought prototype cloaking technology as part of our defensive equipment. It's not perfect, but it might get someone into that meeting undetected." Samantha looked alarmed. "That would violate several diplomatic protocols." "So does holding secret meetings about us without our knowledge," Joseph replied. He studied Daniel for a moment. "How confident are you in this technology?" "Confident enough to volunteer, sir." Joseph nodded slowly. "Do it. But be extremely careful. If you're caught, the diplomatic consequences would be severe." The next day, while Joseph attended a public council session on interstellar trade regulations, Daniel slipped into the restricted section of the spire, the cloaking device, disguised as a standard communication badge, bent light around him in a way that made him nearly invisible to both organic eyes and standard security sensors. The council's private chamber was smaller than the main hall, with only the highest-ranking representatives present. Daniel positioned himself in a corner, activating a recording device as the session began. Senior Ambassador Televin of the Netherae, a being whose translucent skin revealed the shadowy outlines of internal organs, called the meeting to order. "We will now discuss the implementation timeline for the containment directive regarding the human species." Daniel remained perfectly still as the implications of those words sank in. Containment directive? Ambassador Zolrak of the Valorians, a tall humanoid with metallic scales covering his body, rose to speak. "The observation data confirms our initial assessment. Humans qualify as a chaotic acceleration species. Their technological development rate exceeds safe parameters, and their biological adaptability creates unpredictable outcomes." Televin nodded. "This is the third such species encountered in Council history. We must act decisively to prevent the disruptions that occurred previously." A holographic display activated in the center of the chamber, showing Earth and its colonies, surrounded by a glowing boundary. "The proposed containment zone will restrict human expansion to within 20 light years of their home system. Zalrak continued. Additionally, technological guidance protocols will be implemented to ensure development proceeds along acceptable paths. As the meeting continued, Daniel recorded everything. The Council wasn't just planning to limit human expansion. They intended to actively suppress technological innovation and cultural development. The Fisher-Keller drive had apparently triggered significant concern because humans had developed faster-than-light travel using theoretical principles that Council scientists had dismissed centuries ago. When the session ended, Daniel slipped out and returned to the human embassy, his mind racing with the implications of what he'd heard. The diplomatic team gathered in Joseph's office, listening in stunned silence to the recording. "They plan to contain us," Joseph said finally, "like some kind of dangerous pathogen." Samantha shook her head in disbelief. "They called us a chaotic acceleration species. What does that even mean?" "It means they're afraid of us," Daniel replied. "Not of our current technology, but of what we might become." Joseph stood up. "I need to speak with someone who can explain this, preferably someone who might be sympathetic to our situation." After careful consideration, he arranged a private meeting with Televan. The Netheri ambassador agreed, perhaps curious about why the human would request such an unusual audience. They met in a neutral location, a small garden designed to accommodate the biological needs of various species. Joseph went straight to the point, showing Televan a copy of the recording. "You violated Council security," Televan said, her inner organs pulsing with what Joseph guessed was anger or alarm. "You violated diplomatic trust by holding secret meetings about humanity's future without our input," Joseph countered. "I want to understand why the Council fears us so much." Televan was silent for a long moment. Finally, she spoke. "It is not fear in the way you understand it. It is prudence based on historical precedent." "Explain." "Most species develop along predictable paths," Televan said. "Their societies, technologies, and biological adaptations follow patterns we have observed thousands of times. But occasionally, a species emerges that defies those patterns." "Chaotic acceleration species," Joseph said. "Yes, species that make unpredictable leaps in development. Species that adapt too quickly, that connect seemingly unrelated concepts in ways that create ... disruptions. And humanity is one of these species?" Televan's Anzidar organs pulsed again. The Fisher-Keller drive was the confirmation. "Your scientists developed faster-than-light travel, using principles that our experts had deemed theoretically impossible. Yet it works. This suggests a neural architecture capable of connections most species cannot achieve. So you plan to contain us because we think differently?" Joseph felt his anger rising. "We plan to guide your development to prevent the chaos that occurred with previous such species," Televan corrected. "The Council exists to maintain galactic stability, unfettered. Development of chaotic acceleration species threatens that stability." "What happened to the other species like us?" Joseph asked. Televan's skin clouded slightly. "They were contained, successfully." Joseph sensed she wasn't telling the whole truth. "And if we refuse this containment?" "The Council vote will occur in 3 months. The outcome is certain. The containment directive will be implemented with or without human cooperation." Televan rose to leave. "I suggest you prepare your people for the reality of their situation. It is not punishment, Ambassador Martinez. It is necessary protection for the galaxy and for humanity itself." As Joseph watched the Netheri ambassador depart, he knew Earth faced a critical decision. The Council claimed to welcome humanity into the galactic community, but their real intention was to ensure humans remained permanently subordinate, their potential carefully managed and controlled. He returned to the embassy and called an emergency meeting with his team. "We have 3 months," he told them. 3 months to find a way to stop this containment directive, or to prepare an alternative for humanity. Samantha looked troubled. They have thousands of years of experience containing problematic species. What chance do we have against that? Joseph's expression hardened. They may have experience with other species, but they've never dealt with humans before, and that might be the one advantage we need. After learning about the containment directive, Joseph filed a formal protest with the council. His diplomatic team spent weeks preparing documents that outlined why such restrictions violated the principles of self-determination and fair treatment among spacefaring species. The council acknowledged receipt of the protest, but gave no substantive response. The vote remained scheduled for 3 months later, and all signs indicated the outcome was predetermined. Joseph found himself growing increasingly frustrated. The human delegation had limited access to council records and restricted movement within certain areas of Nexus Prime. Without more information, they couldn't develop an effective strategy to counter the containment directive. We need allies, Samantha suggested during one of their daily briefings. Other species who might sympathize with our situation. The junior members are too afraid of the elder races, Joseph replied, pacing the length of his office. And the elder races are united against us. Dr. Olivia Carter, the xenobiologist on their diplomatic team, cleared her throat. Maybe not all of them. I've been working with someone who might help us. Olivia had spent much of her time on Nexus Prime studying the biology of council species. This work had brought her into contact with Ehrlich, an ancient librarian from the Aryan reclusive Mithrai species. The Mithrai were one of the oldest council members, but rarely participated in political matters, preferring to focus on preserving knowledge. Ehrlich has access to historical records that aren't available to us, Olivia explained. He's concerned about the council's treatment of humanity. Joseph looked skeptical. Why would a member of an elder race help us? The Mithrai are different, Olivia said. They value knowledge above politics. Ehrlich believes the council's secrecy violates their own founding principles. That evening, Joseph and Olivia met Ehrlich in a quiet section of Nexus Prime's botanical gardens. The Mithrai was small compared to most council species, barely 5 feet tall, with gray skin that seemed to shift and ripple like water. 4 eyes arranged in a diamond pattern blinked independently as he studied the humans. Ambassador Martinez, Ehrlich said, his voice a soft whisper. Dr. Carter has spoken highly of you. She says you seek truth. I seek to protect my species from unjust restrictions, Joseph replied. Ehrlich's skin rippled. Are they truly unjust if they protect the galaxy from chaos? That depends on whether the chaos is real or merely feared, Joseph countered. The Council claims humanity is dangerous because we develop technology in unpredictable ways. But I've seen no evidence that our innovations threaten anyone. Ehrlich was silent for a moment. The Council's fear runs deeper than mere unpredictability, Ambassador. Humans possess something rare in the galaxy, a neural architecture that allows for cognitive connections most species cannot achieve. Televan mentioned something similar, Joseph said. But what does that actually mean? It means your minds form connections between seemingly unrelated concepts, finding patterns where others see only randomness. This ability has appeared in only 3 other species in Council history. And what happened to them? Joseph asked, though he feared he already knew the answer. Ehrlich's skin darkened. The official records claim they caused great disruption and were contained for the good of all. The truth is more complex. Over the next several weeks, Ehrlich secretly shared historical documents with Olivia and Joseph. The records revealed that the previous chaotic acceleration species hadn't caused disasters as the Council claimed. They had simply refused to accept the artificial limitations imposed by the elder races. The Valorians had orchestrated their containment, or in one case, their extinction. I don't understand, Joseph said as they reviewed the records in the secure room of the human embassy. Why are they so determined to control technological development? What are they afraid will happen if species advance too quickly? Ehrlich hesitated. There is more to this story, but access to those records is severely restricted. Even I cannot view them without special authorization. Can you get that authorization? Olivia asked. Perhaps. There is an archive beneath the council spire that contains the oldest records. As a senior librarian, I can request access for research purposes. But bringing unauthorized individuals would be extremely dangerous. Joseph considered their options. The council vote was now only 6 weeks away. We need to know what they're hiding. Without that knowledge, Earth has no chance of avoiding this containment directive. 3 days later, Ehrlich secured access to the sealed archives. Using the same cloaking technology that had allowed Daniel to infiltrate the council meeting, Joseph and Olivia accompanied the Mithrai librarian into the depths beneath the spire. The archive was unlike anything Joseph had imagined. Instead of the sleek technology that characterized Nexus Prime, the chamber was filled with ancient stone tablets and crystalline memory matrices that predated the council itself. These are the founding documents, Ehrlich explained, his voice barely audible. The true history of the council and its purpose. As Ehrlich accessed the records, a holographic display flickered to life, showing images of ruins on distant worlds. Strange structures built by an advanced civilization that had vanished long before any current council species achieved spaceflight. The predecessors, Ehrlich said. A civilization that spanned the galaxy and then disappeared mysteriously. They left behind technologies beyond anything the elder races could comprehend. The display changed, showing Valorian explorers discovering these ruins thousands of years ago. The images told a story that contradicted everything the council claimed about its origins. The foundational technologies that power the council's civilization weren't developed by the elder races, Olivia realized, her eyes wide. They were discovered in these ruins. Ehrlich nodded. From faster-than-light communication to gravity manipulation, the most crucial technologies were reverse-engineered from predecessor artifacts. The elder races merely claim credit for these discoveries. Joseph watched as the display showed the formation of the First Galactic Council. So the Council's primary function isn't peaceful cooperation. It's controlled technological distribution. Yes, for millennia, they have been doling out discoveries at a pace that maintains the power. Hierarchy. Species that make independent breakthroughs are seen as threats to this carefully maintained order. The implications were staggering. The containment directive wasn't just about limiting human expansion. It was about preventing humanity from making the same discoveries independently, which would undermine the Council's authority. The Fisher-Keller drive, Joseph said. Our scientists developed it using principles the Council had dismissed. Precisely. Humans demonstrated the ability to make technological leaps without Council guidance. This threatens the narrative that the elder races are intellectually superior and therefore deserve to control technological development. As they prepared to leave the archive, Olivia discovered one final piece of information. The standard translation. Matrices used by all council species contain subtle cognitive limiters, subconscious suggestions that made certain innovative connections nearly impossible to conceptualize. It's a form of thought control, she said, horrified. The very language the Council uses to communicate restricts creative thinking. And humans have been using their own independently developed translators, Joseph realized. We've been immune to these effects. Ehrlich's skin paled to an almost translucent state. You must understand, Ambassador. Most Council species aren't consciously participating in this deception. They truly believe the elder races developed these technologies through their superior intellect. The truth has been hidden for so long that it has become mythology. As they made their way back to the human embassy, Joseph's mind raced with the implications of what they had discovered. The Council wasn't just planning to contain humanity. They were planning to prevent humans from achieving their full potential, from making discoveries that might reveal the truth about the elder race's power. "We need to inform Earth immediately," Joseph told his team after sharing what they had learned. "The United Nations needs to understand what we're really facing here. What do you think they'll decide?" Samantha asked. Joseph looked out at the stars visible through the embassy viewport. "I don't know. But whatever they choose, it needs to be based on the truth, not the Council's lies." Olivia nodded, her expression resolute. The countdown to the Council vote continues, but now we know what's really at stake. This isn't just about our freedom to expand into space. It's about our freedom to think, to innovate, to be human. Joseph sent a secure transmission to Earth, including all the evidence they had gathered about the Council's true nature and intentions. The message traveled through the relay system, taking 3 days to reach the United Nations Security Council. During that time, Joseph and his team continued their diplomatic duties, careful not to reveal what they had discovered. Back on Earth, the information caused an uproar among world leaders. Emergency sessions were called as governments tried to understand the implications of what Joseph had sent. The revelation that an alien council planned to limit human development struck at the core of humanity's self-image. Humans had always seen themselves as explorers and innovators. The idea that their potential would be artificially restricted was unacceptable to most. Yet the response was not what the Council might have expected. Instead of outrage or declarations of war, humanity responded with quiet determination. Admiral Natalie Chun, head of Earth's combined space forces, developed a strategy that would leverage humanity's unique position. Operation Silent Walk, she called it during a closed session with global leaders. "We don't reject the Council outright. We don't fight them. We simply walk away and chart our own path." The plan was bold but practical. Earth would appear to accept the Council's limitations while secretly preparing for independence, while the diplomatic team on Nexus Prime maintained the appearance of cooperation. Earth would begin consolidating its resources and accelerating technological development. "The Council believes we need their guidance to advance," Natalie explained. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Scientists led by Dr. Gregory Johnson began reverse engineering the principles behind Council technology using the fragments of information gathered by the diplomatic team. The Fisher-Keller drive had been just the beginning. Within weeks, they had developed prototypes that, while crude, proved humans could independently recreate the technologies that the Council carefully controlled. When Joseph received Earth's response, he was surprised by its restraint. He had expected anger, perhaps even a recall of the diplomatic mission. Instead, he received clear instructions: maintain normal relations with the Council while gathering as much information as possible before the vote. "Earth is taking the long view," Samantha observed as they reviewed the message. "They're not reacting emotionally." Joseph nodded. "That's good. We need time to understand more about how the Council operates and what alternatives we might have." Meanwhile, Olivia made another crucial discovery through her continued work with Ehrlich, the standard translation matrices used by all Council. Species contained subtle cognitive limiters that affected how different species processed information. These limitations made certain innovative connections nearly impossible to conceptualize. "It's brilliant and terrifying," Olivia explained to Joseph. "The Council doesn't need to actively suppress new ideas because most species can't even form them in the first place. But humans have been using our own independently developed translators," Joseph said. "Exactly. We've been immune to these effects. That's part of why they consider us dangerous." This discovery led to the most important development of all. Carole Matthews, a linguistic anthropologist on the diplomatic team, began analyzing the differences between human translators and council ones. She identified the specific language patterns that created cognitive barriers and developed a modified translator that removed these limitations. We could share this with other species, Carol suggested. Show them what the council has been doing to their thinking. Joseph considered the implications. That would be a direct challenge to council authority. We're not ready for that confrontation. Yet, as the date of the council vote approached, Joseph could sense increasing tension among the elder races. His team's activities hadn't gone unnoticed, despite their precautions. Surveillance of the human embassy increased. Access to certain areas of Nexus Prime was further restricted. 2 days before the scheduled vote, Joseph was summoned to meet with the Valorian representative, Ambassador Zalrak. The meeting took place in a formal chamber designed to intimidate, with Zalrak seated on an elevated platform looking down at Joseph. Ambassador Martinez, Zalrak began, his metallic scales gleaming under the bright lights. The council has concerns about recent human activities. Joseph maintained a neutral expression. My delegation has followed all established protocols. Yet, your scientists on Earth have been attempting to replicate council technologies without proper guidance. So they were monitoring Earth communications. Joseph had suspected as much. Research is a fundamental right of any species. We haven't violated any agreements. Zolrak's eyes narrowed. The containment directive will be approved tomorrow, not in 2 days as previously scheduled. The Council has decided that swift implementation is necessary to prevent further independent development. I see, Joseph said calmly. And if Earth rejects this directive? Rejection is not an option, Ambassador. The directive will be enforced by the combined fleets of the elder races if necessary. Joseph maintained his composure despite the clear threat. I will inform my government of this change. Returning to the embassy, Joseph immediately called an emergency meeting with his team. They're moving up the vote. We need to contact Earth now. Daniel activated the secure communication system, while Samantha began gathering all their essential data. What do you think Earth will do? She asked. Whatever they decide, we need to be ready to leave quickly, Joseph replied. I don't think the Council will allow us to stay on Nexus Prime once their directive is enacted. The response from Earth came faster than expected. It was brief and clear. Earth had decided neither to accept nor reject the Council's terms. Instead, they would simply withdraw from consideration for membership, maintaining minimal diplomatic contact while pursuing their own path of development. Joseph was instructed to deliver this message to the full Council immediately, before the vote could take place. The diplomatic team would then depart Nexus Prime within 12 hours. It's not what I expected, Joseph admitted to his team, but I think it might be the perfect response. The next morning, Joseph entered the council chamber. Representatives from all 17 species were present for the vote on the containment directive. The elder races sat in their elevated positions, confident in their power and authority. Televan of the Netherai called for order. Before we proceed to the vote, Ambassador Martinez of Earth has requested permission to address the council. Joseph walked to the center of the chamber, feeling the weight of every gaze upon him. He spoke without preamble, his voice clear and strong. Honored representatives of the Galactic Council, I come before you today not to argue against the containment directive you plan to impose on humanity. Instead, I am here to inform you that Earth formally withdraws from consideration for Council membership. Murmurs of surprise rippled through the chamber. No species had ever voluntarily withdrawn from membership consideration before. Humanity acknowledges the Council's ancient history and the stability it has brought to many worlds. However, we cannot accept limitations on our development or our exploration of the galaxy. We do not seek conflict with the Council. We simply choose a different path. Zolrak rose from his seat, his metallic scales reflecting the chamber's lights. This is unprecedented. The benefits of council membership cannot be overstated. Without our guidance, humanity will face challenges they cannot overcome alone. Joseph smiled slightly. We appreciate your concern, Ambassador Zelrek. But humans have a long history of overcoming challenges that were deemed impossible. We prefer to face the unknown on our terms, making our own mistakes and achieving our own successes. And what of the protections the Council provides? Asked another representative. There are dangers in the galaxy that solitary species cannot face alone. Earth extends an open hand of friendship to all peaceful species, Joseph replied. We believe in cooperation based on mutual respect and equal exchange. Any who wish to communicate or trade with humanity on these terms will be welcome. As Joseph finished speaking, he could see the confusion on many faces. The Council had prepared for resistance, for demands, perhaps even for threats. They had not prepared for humanity to simply walk away. Televan finally broke the silence. The Council acknowledges Earth's decision, though we consider it unwise. You may maintain an observational outpost on Nexus Prime if you wish, but without membership. Consideration: your access to Council resources and territories will be limited. We understand, Joseph said. The human delegation will depart within 12 hours. We thank you for your hospitality. As Joseph left the chamber, he felt lighter somehow. Earth had chosen independence over restriction, exploration over safety. It was a risk, but one that felt true to humanity's nature. Back at the embassy, the team was already packing. How did they take it? Samantha asked. They're shocked, Joseph replied. They've never had a species simply walk away before. It's disrupted their entire approach. Olivia looked up from her datapad. What happens now? Joseph gazed out at the stars visible through the viewport. Now we forge our own path in the galaxy, without Council restrictions or Council protection. Sounds terrifying, Daniel said. And exciting. Yes, Joseph agreed. That's humanity in a nutshell, isn't it? The Council was thrown into unprecedented chaos by humanity's decision to withdraw. No species had ever voluntarily walked away from membership consideration before. The political and economic benefits had always been too tempting to refuse. For days after the human delegation departed, emergency sessions filled the Council chambers as representatives debated how to respond to this unexpected development. Meanwhile, the human diplomatic vessel UESS Envoy made its way back to Earth. Joseph stood on the bridge, watching as Nexus Prime shrank to a distant point of light before disappearing entirely when they entered the relay system. Do you think they'll come after us? Samantha asked, joining him at the viewport. Not immediately, Joseph replied. They don't have a protocol for this situation. They'll debate and discuss until they reach a consensus. That could take months, even years. Olivia entered the bridge, holding a datapad. We've been contacted by representatives from several junior Council species. They're requesting private communications channels with Earth. Joseph raised an eyebrow. Which species? The Tellarites, Morrigan, and 4 others. All of them have been under Council guidance for over 50 years. This was unexpected, but promising. Establish the channels, but keep them secure. The Council will be monitoring everything they can. When the envoy returned to Earth orbit, Joseph was surprised to see how much had changed in the months he'd been away. New ships filled the orbital shipyards, featuring designs that incorporated elements of both human and Council technology. The Fisher-Keller drive had been refined, allowing for faster and more efficient travel than even the Council ships could achieve. During his debriefing with world leaders, Joseph learned the full extent of Operation Silent Walk. Earth had established 7 new colonies beyond the boundaries the Council had planned to impose, all connected by an independent network of communication relays built using principles. reverse engineered from Council technology. We're not trying to build an empire, Admiral Natalie Chun explained during the briefing. But we need enough independent infrastructure to ensure humanity's survival if the Council decides to take more aggressive action. Dr. Gregory Johnson, who had led the technology development teams, displayed holographic models of their latest innovations. We've made remarkable progress with communication systems and energy generation. The most exciting breakthrough came from understanding how Council translation technology suppresses innovative thinking. Carol Matthews took over the presentation, explaining how they had developed new translation systems free from the cognitive limitations found in Council technology. These translators allow for the full range of human creative thinking while communicating with alien species. It's our most powerful advantage. In the 3 years that followed humanity's withdrawal from the Council, the interstellar landscape changed dramatically. Earth established 17 colonies beyond the boundaries. The Council had proposed creating a small but thriving network of human settlements. The improved Fisher-Keller drive allowed humans to travel faster and more efficiently than Council ships, giving them a crucial mobility advantage. But the most significant development came from the cultural exchange programs established with the junior Council species. These civilizations, some of which had been under Council guidance for centuries, sent small delegations to Earth to learn about human innovation and society. When they began using human-designed translators free from cognitive limitations, these species experienced an unprecedented renaissance of creativity and technological development. A new coalition began to form, not as an opposing force to this Council, but as an alternative path of open cooperation and unrestricted scientific development. Species that had been stagnant for millennia found themselves making rapid advances when collaborating with humans and each other without Council oversight. The Council responded with a mixture of diplomatic pressure and economic sanctions. They declared certain regions of space off-limits to non-member species and restricted access to established trade routes. But they stopped short of military action, perhaps recognizing that direct conflict would only drive more species away from their influence. On the 5th anniversary of humanity's withdrawal from Council consideration, Joseph Martinez, now Secretary General of Earth's United Space Initiative, received an unexpected visitor. Jarek, the same reptilian emissary who had first invited humanity to join the Council, requested a private meeting at the new space station orbiting Earth. "You're no longer with the Council?" Joseph asked as they stood on the observation deck, Earth turning peacefully below them. "I resigned my position," Jarek replied. "Many of us have been questioning the Council's traditional approaches since your species challenged them so directly." Joseph studied the alien who had once represented everything humanity was leaving behind. "Why are you here, Jarek?" "To understand. Your withdrawal sparked changes that are still rippling through galactic society. Junior species are demanding reforms. Even some elder races are questioning traditions that have stood for thousands of years." "We didn't intend to cause disruption," Joseph said. "We just wanted the freedom to follow our own path." Jarek's vertical pupils widened slightly. "Yet, disruption followed nonetheless. You must understand, the Council truly believed they were protecting the galaxy from chaos. After the predecessor civilization vanished, leaving only ruins and dangerous technologies behind, the elder races feared unrestricted development might lead to similar destruction. Fear is a poor foundation for cooperation, Joseph observed. True alliance must be built on mutual respect and trust, a perspective that is gaining support even within the Council. Jarek moved closer to the viewport. Several Council members have proposed a new framework for interspecies relations, one that would allow for greater autonomy while maintaining cooperative security. And what do you think of these proposals? I think they come too late for some species, but perhaps not. For all, Jarek turned to face Joseph. Humanity has proven that independence is possible, but isolated species remain vulnerable in a galaxy filled with unknown threats. Joseph nodded thoughtfully. We're not opposed to cooperation, Jarek. We're opposed to control disguised as guidance. In the distance, the lights of a visiting Nethari ship approached the station. It was the first official delegation from a major council race to arrive without council sanction. Their scientists had requested access to Earth's advanced communication technology, offering valuable astronomical data in exchange. Is that a Nethari vessel? Jarek asked, surprise evident in his voice. Yes, Ambassador Caravan, Televin's daughter. She represents a progressive faction within Nethari society. Jarek made a sound that Joseph had learned was equivalent to a human chuckle. 5 years ago, this would have been unimaginable. The Nethari have been among the most conservative council members for millennia. Things change, Joseph said simply. People change, species change, even ancient institutions can change if pushed hard enough. As they watched the Nethari ship dock with the station, Joseph reflected on the journey that had brought humanity to this point. They hadn't conquered the council or destroyed it. They had simply shown the galaxy that there was another way forward. Coalition of independent species that had formed around Earth's example now included 23 former council members. They called themselves the Concordat, an alliance based on shared knowledge and mutual defense rather than hierarchical control. They faced challenges, certainly. Without the council's established infrastructure, they had to build new trade routes, new communication networks, new diplomatic protocols, but they were doing it together as equals. Species that had been junior members for centuries were now contributing innovations that benefited everyone. Free from the cognitive limitations imposed by council translation technology, they were solving problems that had stumped the elder. Races for generations. What happens next? Jarek asked as they turned to greet the arriving Nethari delegation. I don't know, Joseph admitted. And that's what makes it exciting. For the first time in thousands of years, the future of this part of the galaxy isn't being carefully managed according to someone's plan. It's unfolding naturally, through the combined efforts of many different minds working in their own ways. Chaos. Jarek observed, but without judgment. Creative chaos, Joseph corrected. The kind that leads to growth and new possibilities. As the Nethari ambassador entered the observation deck, Joseph stepped forward to welcome her. Behind him, Earth continued its peaceful rotation, a blue jewel in the vastness of space. Humanity had walked away from the constraints the Council tried to impose, choosing a harder but ultimately more rewarding path. They had overruled the ambassadors who claimed to know what was best for them and decided to face the galaxy on their own terms. And in doing so, they had changed everything. One step at a time,